consultant at Fortis Law Firm and Max PPG. Our area of interest is gynae endoscopy, urogynecology, high-risk pregnancy, adolescent health, and of course, now we see her so very active in medical legal issues concerning us. She is the founder member of DGES and organized many endoscopy workshops, past president of EDGF. So I welcome Dr. Rajkumari Bokaria, chairperson for the second session. Dr. Raj.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So after the what a feast we had from Meena, now I invite the Vandana, who is going to speak on headache, and she is a young. Can I have the slide for Dr. Vandana? Dipti, can I have the slide?
I'm giving you.
Dr. Vandana, please.
Where is her slide? But she is a young, energetic, vibrant, always smiling, and equally academic. Not only, and also a good dancer also. Can't make out anything. She's a senior consultant in Ops and Gynae at Max Hospital, Parpadganj, RK Hospital, and Apex City Hospital. She is a vice president, Delhi Gynae Forum East, a member of the Reproductive and Endocrinology AOGD. She has so many membership of all the societies, including ICOG, FOXY, AOGD, NARCHI, received so many awards, and she is always active in various academic activities. She is going to speak on, though it looks a very simple topic, but it is very tricky to manage when it happens in the pregnancy, that is the headache. Now we have to know the way she's going to give us a various insight. What are the types of the headache and when it is to be reported to the doctor? Because most of the headaches, they are being managed by the home remedies. So when they are worrying some, and what are the drugs which we can take it during pregnancy? So all for you, Dr. Vandana, please.
Thank you, Dr. Raj, for those kind words. So I'd be speaking for headache in pregnancy. It's one of the most common discomforts experienced during pregnancy, and occurs at any time during pregnancy, but they tend to occur most commonly during first and third trimester. Headache disorders are collectively as the 7th highest cause of years lived with disability according to Global Burden of Disease, as reported in 2013. Early diagnosis of the disease is important for the life of both mother and fetus, and can present as primary headache when the pain is the disease, or a secondary headache when pain is the symptom of another disease. Most headaches in pregnancy are benign, but the pregnant woman is at risk of life-threatening secondary headache. So the risk factors which predispose a pregnant woman are various changes, which is decreased vascular resistance, increased vascular permeability, increased cardiac output, increased risk of thromboembolism because of fluctuating levels of estrogen, which increase coagulation factors. Also, elevated progesterone levels induce vasodilatation, vascular stasis, and edema. The causes of headache are different in different trimesters. In first trimester, hormonal, rather they overlap. Hormonal changes, blood pressure, weight changes, lack of sleep. Blood pressure is, if it was there, it is an essential hypertension. Second trimester, blood pressure becomes most important. Muscle stress, diabetes, and otherwise death, emotional stress, and diet. In third trimester, again, we are looking at the hypertension. So approximately 39% of women will experience headaches during or just after pregnancy. The exact cause of a headache during pregnancy may vary based on the trimester. This is a summary of characteristics of new onset acute and peripheral central neurological disorders. So we are not talking about the peripheral disorders, we are talking about the central disorders, of which the headache is the main, and migraine headache without aura, most common in the first trimester, it decreases in the second and the third trimester. And with aura, it's the other way around, it is least in the first trimester and increases in the second and to the greatest stake in the third trimester. It is a possible predictor of complication in pregnancy like miscarriage, preeclampsia, eclampsia, CVT, stroke, low birth weight, and others. But the data is very inconsistent. Other cerebrovascular complications would be central venous thrombosis, AV malformations, aneurysm rupture. These all, the CVT occurs more commonly in the third trimester, AVM more commonly in the first trimester, and aneurysm rupture again in the third trimester. The reason is AVM typically occurs earlier, that is 15 to 20 weeks of gestation, and in younger women, that is 20 to 25 years old. And aneurysm rupture occurs usually later in pregnancy, that is 30 to 40 weeks of gestation, and in older women, 30 to 35 years old. Subarachnoid hemorrhage occurs commonly as a result of ruptured aneurysm. So the primary causes could be a tension headache, which is the patient feels all around. Migraine could be a hemi-sided headache, and a cluster headache, which is usually presented with pain all around the eye. So migraine headaches without aura occur in up to 10% of pregnant women, often begin as a dull ache that grows into a piercing throbbing pain, which may or may not radiate. Patient is sensitive to light, noise, and some smells. Other symptoms could be dizziness and nausea. The course in pregnancy, a migraine without headache, without aura, that is MO, can change to migraine with aura, that is MA, and vice versa. Migraine without aura can convert to tension headache and vice versa. Pre-existing migraine improves markedly in 75% of women. Frequency and intensity of attack may decrease. Progressive decrease in mean pain intensity and duration is also seen with advancing pregnancy. Megoni reported absolute improvement during first trimester and further reduction in subsequent trimesters. 50% of multiparous patients present with worsening of headache in subsequent pregnancies. And migraine without aura can start de novo in 10% pregnant women in the first trimester. 8% cases worsen in the first trimester. 25% of the patients have attack associated with hyperemesis. Thus, there is a pathological pregnancy course will be predicted specifically in women who have a menstrual-related migraine during pre-gestational period. So this is migraine with aura. It starts or worsens during pregnancy more frequently than migraine without aura, maybe due to increased endothelial activity. Fluctuating estrogen levels may be the reason. No change in pain pattern is frequently seen. 14% patients show onset and 8.5% patients worsen during gestation. Nearly 50% patients continue to have attacks which can have new aura symptoms and may have an attack with aura without a headache. Transient neurological symptoms are common. Hemiplegic migraine differential diagnosis difficult in third trimester. Postpartum headache is seen in 30 to 40% of the women, with attacks developing during first week post-delivery. 3.7% of women have headaches within 72 hours post-delivery with regional anesthesia injection as a risk factor. Migraine returns after delivery may be because of fall in estrogen levels, postpartum depression, sleep deprivation, psychological adaptation, and anxiety. In 55% patients, pre-pregnancy headache pattern recurs within 1 month after delivery. Breastfeeding and age above 30 years retards, this is an advantage to the patient, retards headache recurrence. In IVF and embryo transfer, prevalence of headache is more due to decrease in estrogen levels seen with GnRH analog use. So now we come to tension headaches, most common type of headache during pregnancy. 26% of all headaches during pregnancy are tension headache. They improve during pregnancy as female hormones modulate serotonin and endorphins, which are the cause of tension headaches. Intensity is mild to moderate. Patient complains pain as they have a tight band around their head, and TTH is not correlated with any adverse pregnancy outcome as shown in a small sample size. Cluster headaches, these are very rare, occurring in about 0.3% of pregnancies. Symptoms are severe stabbing pains, typically on one side of the head and around eye especially. Other symptoms such as nasal congestion, watery eyes, or swelling in the area could be associated. They do not change in frequency and intensity in pregnancy. And they're difficult to treat in pregnancy because patients who are prone to cluster headaches either do not have a pregnancy or its occurrence, as we say, it's a very low in 0.3% seen in pregnancy. The causes of secondary, there are secondary headaches which are in which the pain is the symptom. The risk factors contributing to high incidence during pregnancy could be hypercoagulable state, hormonal changes, anesthesia for labor. What are the red flags for headache in pregnancy where we need a referral to for a patient, or the patient has to be alert, the doctor has to be seen. Headache that peaks in severity in less than 5 minutes, new headache type versus a worsening of a previous headache, change in previously stable headache pattern, headache that changes with posture, headache awakening the patient, headache precipitated by physical activity or Valsalva maneuver, thrombophilia, neurological symptoms of sign occur, trauma, history of fever, seizures, history of malignancy, history of HIV or active infections or pituitary disorders, elevated blood pressure, and recent travel to an infectious disease. 8. The causes of secondary headache could be hypertension, subarachnoid hemorrhage, drug-related meningitis, cerebral venous thrombosis, anemia, caffeine withdrawal, stroke, arteriovenous malformations, enlargement of a pituitary tumor, enlargement of a hormone-sensitive tumor, bleeding into a pre-existing tumor. So these are the clinical clues in the diagnosis of secondary headache disorders. Maybe the patient may present with orthostatic headache pattern, which is seen usually during post-dural puncture headache as a anesthesia complication postpartum. If a patient has a relapsing thunderclap headache is characterized by sharp, severe headache, which precipitates early and peaks within a minute or maybe during seconds and then stops. If she has a relapsing thunderclap headache, it could be due to reversible cerebral vasoconstriction syndrome, usually seen postpartum. If she has a single thunderclap headache, which is a pattern seen as aneurysm, subarachnoid hemorrhage, RCVS again, cerebral venous thrombosis, cervical artery dissection, pituitary apoplexy, and pneumocephalus as the conditions occur antepartum or postpartum. Hypertension is very common in preeclampsia and eclampsia, posterior reversible encephalopathy syndrome, and RCVS. These are mostly antepartum, and RCVS is postpartum. Visual loss can be associated in preeclampsia, breast, pituitary apoplexy, in idiopathic intracranial hypertension, and cerebral venous thrombosis. Seizures are seen again in eclampsia, cerebral venous thrombosis, breast, and RCVS. And Horner syndrome is cervical artery dissection, which is more common in postpartum. Papilledema may be seen in central venous thrombosis, idiopathic intracranial hypertension, space-occupying lesions, all are seen in antepartum. Focal neurological findings could be seen in ischemic stroke, intracranial hemorrhage, cerebral venous thrombosis, breast. They all are antepartum, and RCVS is postpartum. So preeclampsia, I would just like to elaborate a little bit for preeclampsia and eclampsia. This complicates around 5% of the pregnancies. According to International Classification of Headache Disorders, headache should have at least 2 of the following 3 characteristics. It's aggravated by physical activity, it's bilateral in location, temporal, frontal, occipital, or diffuse, and it's a pulsating quality. It fails to respond to over-the-counter remedies, and headache resolves. This is very typical, resolves within a week after blood pressure adjustments. Then posterior reversible encephalopathy syndrome, it's a neuroradiological entity, presents with insidious onset of headache. In 2/3 of the patient, it could be occipital, bilateral, and dull. Impaired consciousness could be there. Visual changes can be seen. Blindness also could be associated. Seizures, nausea, vomiting, focal neurological signs can be seen. Symptoms develop without prodrome and progress over 12 to 48 hours. They are often associated with hypertensive encephalopathy, preeclampsia and eclampsia, RCVS, renal failure, and immunosuppressive therapy. Usually develops postpartum. It is reversible. That's the beauty of the disease, that with early diagnosis and appropriate treatment, symptoms resolve within a period of days or weeks, but MRI abnormalities, they take longer to resolve. Then what we are looking at assessment in pregnancy, blood pressure, proteinuria, clonus, preeclampsia, especially after 20 weeks of gestation. Neurological examination is very important for looking, fundoscopy for looking for papilledema. Cranial nerve assessment, pupil reaction to the light and accommodation. Visual feeds, looking for lesions affecting visual processing, such as pituitary tumors. Eye movement, tone, power, reflexes, and coordination in forelimbs have to be seen. Plantar responses have to be elicited. Assessment of gait, including heel-to-toe walking, has to be seen. Papilledema, it's looking for a pink of disc with blurring and heaping up at its margins. This is a loss of which within the disc of normal pulsations of retinal veins. The disc becomes engorged and the vessels are dilated. So then we resort to imaging studies. Neuroradiology is used to exclude secondary causes of headache, as in primary, in migraine, imaging findings are usually normal. Indications for imaging are same as for non-pregnant women. Exclusion of threatening secondary causes is essential if the red flags, as discussed earlier, are present. So MRI is safe in pregnancy, has a higher resolution, increased sensitivity, and lack of ionizing radiation. It assesses the posterior fossa very effectively. Magnetic resonance arteriography or magnetic resonance venography are indicated to exclude vascular causes of headache. CT scan without contrast is an option in selected cases, as risk of in utero exposure to ionizing radiation is present. Only advantage is its lower cost and wider availability. Contrast have to be avoided. Gadolinium is a contrast used with MRI. It has to be used with caution, although it has been used in studies without any effects. So imaging studies, this is basically a chart to take us how to deal with the patient. We take a personal history regarding new onset headache, rapidly increasing headache, thunderclap headache, nausea, vomiting, and visual distancing. And then we look at the clinical findings: BP, fever, nuchal rigidity, papilledema, neurological deficit, seizures, or altered mental state. If none of this is present, then we treat it as a primary headache. If they are present, then first we think of preeclampsia and has to be treated accordingly. If preeclampsia is not present, or it is not responding to the treatment, or primary headache is not improving on the treatment, we do a non-contrast CT or an MRI. If it is positive, and whatever we find has to be treated accordingly. If it is negative, then we consider lab evaluation for preeclampsia or lumbar puncture for meningitis and subarachnoid hemorrhage, and MRA or MRV to look for cerebrovascular vascular diseases. So the management always starts with preconceptional counseling wherever feasible. Non-pharmacological therapies should always be emphasized as an important aspect. Migraine prophylactic medication may be necessary in pregnancy because of generally may not be necessary. It may be unnecessary, because it has a good prognosis and the drugs carry a teratogenic concern. So non-pharmacological management is it should be preferred therapy during pregnancy and breastfeeding. We have to avoid triggers like sleep deprivation, tipping knees, or emotional stress. Patient has to lead a balanced lifestyle with attention to physical activity, regular eating and sleeping habits. Acupuncture can also be used. Behavioral therapies like biofeedback and yoga also do help. Cluster headache patients should be screened for sleep apnea and may require treatment with a dental device or CPAP. So then we come to pharmacological treatment during pregnancy. Inadvertent exposure to a teratogenic agent can lead to irreversible fetal malformation. So drugs have to be chosen very wisely, considering the benefits and the risks. Aim for the lowest effective dose and the shortest duration of treatment. Medication is safe in breastfeeding if the relative dose to the infant is less than 10%. Adverse effects can be minimized by taking medication after breastfeeding and discarding all milk for at least 4 hours after drug intake. First-line therapy usually includes an analgesic, maybe an acetaminophen, and an antiemetic like metoclopramide. Opiates are typically not indicated to treat migraine, but if necessary as a rescue therapy, oxycodone may be the safest specific drug within this class to be used. NSAIDs may have a niche in the second trimester. So this is a short chart. For paracetamol, adverse effects are minimum. It's a preferred treatment in acute phases. NSAIDs, if ibuprofen has been used in first trimester, it may lead to miscarriages. In second trimester, it can be used safely used in second trimester. Avoid in third, and it leads to premature closure of ductus arteriosus, impaired renal function, cerebral palsy, or intraventricular hemorrhage for the fetus, for the baby. Triptan, sumatriptan, or rizatriptan have been shown not to have major congenital defect, but they have to be used very cautiously. Aspirin greater than 100 milligrams or used in third trimester, it gives adverse effects, premature closure of ductus arteriosus, oligohydramnios, or neonatal bleeds. Less than 100 milligram per day is safe with a caution in first and second trimester. Nowadays, we are using 150 milligrams for IUGR or in IVF pregnancies also. So that has to be discussed. Combined preparations are not recommended. High flow oxygen is preferred in cluster headache. Lidocaine again has to be given in cluster headache. Intranasal formulations are preferred. Corticosteroids, prednisolone lead to early lung maturation. They have to be avoided in first trimester. Low doses are recommended. Reserved for cluster headache or status migraines. So beta blockers, metoprolol, propranolol, these are first line migraine prophylaxis. If possible, we have to taper off in third trimester and monitor newborn exposed in third trimester. The adverse effects are neonatal bradycardia, hypertension, and hypoglycemia when exposed in third trimester. Verapamil, again, it's a first line cluster. Tricyclic antidepressant, second line migraine prophylaxis, when beta blocker is ineffective or contraindicated, amitriptyline can be preferred. So analgesics, I would like to elaborate what we are using generally. Acetaminophen is a category B for intravenous administration. It's an analgesic of choice for mild to moderate pain during pregnancy. Safe therapeutic dose is less than 4 grams, less than or equal to. Recent data raises concern about possible relationship with increased risk of asthma and ADHD in the infant. Acetyl salicylic acid is safe in the first and second trimester. Third trimester, it is a category D drug because of its effect on platelet function, causing a prolonged labor, PPH, neonatal bleeding, and premature closure of fetal ductus arteriosus. And again, neonatal bleed also. And we are talking of the 100 milligrams. And again, the question mark comes that regularly we are using now 150 milligrams as a prophylaxis in IUGR, or maybe when the blood flow we are supposed, or in in patient prone to preeclampsia or eclampsia. Then metamizole and dipyrone is a category C by oral or IV route, effective in treatment of migraine. Risks are agranulocytosis, renal failure, and hypotension. May be associated with birth tumor and risk for infant leukemia, and may cause oligohydramnios and closure of fetal ductus arteriosus. NSAID drugs to be used with caution during pregnancy. It is ibuprofen is category C when used less than 30 weeks, and that is the time we are using it in second trimester, and it becomes category D greater than 30 weeks. Use in third trimester is again associated with premature closure of fetal ductus arteriosus, oligohydramnios due to its inhibitory effect on the prostaglandin activity. Antiemetics, metoclopramide is a category B used as an antiemetic and gastroprokinetic effects. Adverse event is extrapyramidal reaction seen in 0.2% patients. Promethazine is a category C in first trimester and B thereafter. Chlorperazine is category C and are dopamine antagonists and can be used combined with NSAIDs or opioids. But we should be careful, it's a category C drugs. Prochlorperazine may be associated with congenital heart defects like cleft palate. Ondansetron is a category B drug, should not be used as a first-line treatment. After 10 weeks of gestation, the risk of teratogenicity is decreased. Safe for use in pregnancy are doxylamine, which we are using, histamine H1 receptor antagonist, that is omeprazole, pyridoxine, dicyclopurine, and phenothiazines. Drugs should be avoided: venlafaxine, valproate, topiramate, flunarizine, ergot, and ergot alkaloids that they can initiate labor or premature labor, ACE inhibitors, and ARBs, angiotensin receptor blockers. So treatment in breastfeeding patient with migraine in acute phase, what is safe is acetaminophen, ibuprofen, or ketamine, the elatriptan, sumatriptan, and ondansetron. Use with caution, again, naproxen, indomethacin, ketorolac, and other triptans. And contraindicated are dihydroergometine and aspirin. Preventive, propranolol, timolol, amitriptyline, and other drugs. And the contraindicated are atenolol and nadolol. So in summary, pregnancy is characterized by anatomic and physiological changes that can trigger or potentiate neurological complaints. According to pregnancy trimester clinical findings, maternal age, and risk factors, a definitive diagnosis of neurological disorder has to be made. Headache disorders are extraordinarily common and disproportionately impact women of childbearing age. Acute headache occurring in pregnancy and postpartum period is a red flag requiring diagnostic vigilance. Relatively safe oral, parenteral, and procedural therapies are available for pregnant women. Multidisciplinary approach is likely to improve outcomes.
हाँ, बिल्कुल नहीं खेल पा रहा, ग्रो नहीं कर पा रहा.
और अब ये तुमने देखा कि वो जो भी डॉगी है वो हर चीज से खेल रहा है, सबसे सब चीजों से
वो
खेल
कल
रहा
इसको सिखा रही थी बॉल से खेलना.
है. तो उसको जगह ही नहीं मिल रही बॉल से खेलने की, खूब खेल रहा है बॉल से.
Any questions?